Okay, in this video we're going to be drawing the light shapes and the light shapes only. So this is why we got the black paper, is so that we can draw just light onto a perfectly black surface. It's the opposite of what you do when you're drawing on white paper, where you're used to drawing the lines and the shadows and the things that appear dark. In the light shapes drawing, we're going to draw what appears to be light instead. It's important here that we don't draw the entire object first. Critically important. So you are just looking at these shapes alone, not trying to draw the whole object. So for this sphere, I didn't draw the entire sphere first. I drew what appeared to be the light and stopped when I got to this shadow edge right here. So this is just one big shape that the light on that ball is making. And that's important because if you draw the whole object first, it's not going to have the same atmosphere to it than if you just draw the light shapes and focus on those. So I'm drawing lightly here with this light pencil. Stay away from this eraser for now. What it can do is it can really make your drawing messy. If you start using it all over the place to try and get rid of charcoal, it can make your paper get all grungy and smudgy. You really want to develop an ability to be careful with your drawing. Okay, so I have my light shape there. And I'm going to start drawing the other light shape of the background. So the background is also catching light. It's just not catching as much light as the ball is in this instance. So there's an edge, follows along that edge and continues. I'm not drawing the ball here. I'm drawing the shape that the light is making, and that's going to cause me to stop right about there. Instead of drawing the rest of the ball, I'm just drawing what this shape of light is doing. It arcs back this way, and then it arcs forward that way and loops around right about there. You can see the shadow is totally empty here. And then there's kind of a halo of light, maybe a border comes around, and then there's the tabletop here. That table front is a good idea to put in. It adds a sense of depth, a sense of space to the drawing. So I'm going to stop my light shape so that table front is different than the top of the table, which is catching light. Front of the table is not catching light. The top of the table is. Okay, and that's kind of the structure of my light shapes. I'm going to back way off of this pencil and I'm going to start just laying things in very lightly. This is my single passive value. And when I say value, I mean light and dark. So here the value we're putting down is light value because we have a white pencil. Very, very lightly. This is another time to get into the zone, daydream, put on a podcast, whatever. If I push hard with this pencil, it's going to be game over. I'm going to use up all of my lights way too quickly, and it's going to, in all likelihood, it's going to look messy, like it was done with a crayon or something like that. So I'm just going to take as much time as this requires. I can always come back in with other layers to smooth things out. It's critical that you have a sharp pencil for this. If your pencil is dull, its ability to put down smooth, even values is really compromised, as well as just looking amateurish. A dull pencil will have you looking clumsier than you really are. A sharp pencil, if you're delicate with it, will have you looking much more deliberate maybe than you're being. It doesn't require any special talent or anything other than just learning how to sharpen your pencil well. Stay away from dull pencils. So the background here is a bit darker than the ball, or a fair bit darker than the ball. The ball has more value on it than the background. So I'm going to feel good just putting another layer, putting some more layers of white down on this ball. So it's much lighter in value than the surroundings, which is what I see in the reference. Make sure you're not holding the pencil like this, where your point is headed down. It's going to make the pencil much duller, much faster. You see me holding this pencil far back away so that I can get a low angle on it and press lightly. I want to get at this slowly. I don't want to try and get to the lightness of this ball all at once. If I do that, the chances of me going overboard are way higher. If I creep up on it, then I can be much more subtle about how things are being handled. I'm also taking this opportunity to smooth out things that were not very smooth in the first layer. So any little black flecks that are obnoxious, I'm chasing those away with the pencil so that I get a nice smooth end result. I think I want the tabletop to look like it's different than the back wall. And if the light source is up above, I can imagine that the tabletop is getting a little bit more light. So I'm just going to maybe artificially lighten that tabletop just a little bit so that it shows up as being different than that wall. And that's just a decision that I'm making because I feel like it'll look better in the end. Okay, somewhere up in the middle of this light shape is a much lighter part of that light shape, kind of a shiny spot. There's that shape right about there. It's pretty strong right now, so I'm going to kind of ease it into its surroundings, maybe blur the edges of it. And I don't want a hard edge on this. I want it to kind of diffuse into the surroundings. And you can see how much dimension that gave the ball just putting that light spot on it. Here's where I might use this eraser. You really want to be careful, as I warned before, the eraser can make a smudgy mess. But if I use it just for very lightly with a little bit of cleanup, I can get that back edge looking a little smoother. It's one of those things where if you use it judiciously, it's fine. But if you overuse it or try to scrub too much white away with it, like if you press too hard with the white pencil and you're trying to scrub too much away, it'll just end up making a mess. Okay, and you can see how much dimension this has now, this sphere. By just drawing the light shapes, you'll notice if it's in the shadow, in this drawing, if it's in the shadows, it does not exist. I simply didn't draw it. So the back edge of the ball, the shadow that the ball is casting onto the table, that's just empty space. There was never any drawing in there. The background off to the side, same story. There was never any white charcoal in there. And that's important in this drawing so that you get a good sense of atmosphere. You don't make a huge mess. Make sure when you're drawing light shapes drawing on black paper, in my class for this, that you only draw the shapes of the light. You don't try to draw the whole object and then draw the light shapes in. Instead, you just draw the shapes of the light. Trust yourself, be as careful as you can, and let that drawing rise out of how careful you are with those shapes. Remember, this is mostly about training ourselves to draw and to see. So if you sidestep the process, you try to draw the whole sphere and then just draw the light shapes in after that, you're cheating yourself of the practice that you would have gotten dealing with those light shapes. Okay, so that's a brief overview of drawing with light shapes.